right, let's get started. First of all, thank you everybody for joining. And questions in the hands in the air. Who is enjoying Spring I up until now? Everybody almost. Okay, the room is quite awake. Who's here because he only wants to work 4 hours per week? Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. Not that much. Not that much. Okay, I would have thought that more people would put their hand in the air. All right. This talk is about the developer's guide on how to make money in the open source galaxy, and it's in fact my personal story. So. Quick introduction, who am I? I am Ronald, and there's still a lot of people entering the room. There are some places in the front for who likes. I'm Ronald, you can find me here, and I'm a beer-loving developer, and I was really lucky to be born in the right country, because I was born in Belgium, and in Belgium we have more beer types than we have inhabitants. So it's a great place to live. And in my day-to-day job, I work for JobRunr, and it's of course open source, because this is what this talk is about. And I may be a little bit biased, but I think it's the ultimate library for background job processing in Java. It's distributed and backed by persistent storage, and it's of course open and free for commercial use. And why am I biased? Well, yeah, I created it, so it's always nice to promote your own things. And it comes with a small dashboard here, but more on that later. Just so that you know, this is not a technical story. This is like more a fairy tale in my point of view. It's a meta story about how I started JobRunr and how it became a company. So, to do that, we will be doing some time traveling. And I really mean time traveling to the galaxy. We will start around 2000. We will jump quite fast to 2010, and we will go all the way to today. So let's buckle up and go right for it. So my career, I was an industrial engineer, or I am an industrial engineer, and I started my studies in 2000. I was lucky enough to not need to do 1 year double, so in 2004 I started as a Java developer and enterprise content management consultant at Plexor. It's a Belgian company doing content management. And then in 2009, I started freelancing. And the reason that I started freelancing is quite a funny story. It's this book, Double Your Dating. To be honest, as a child, I was bullied quite a bit. And I never felt like really comfortable talking to women. And as an engineer, what do? You try to learn. You try to do something about it. So I found this book. And this book is like Psychology 101 condensed in a small book. And there is something that really hit me, where they said, it's, please take a look where you are now with your life, and where do you want to be 3 months from now. And then I was thinking, yeah, I'm currently making my employer a lot of money. Why should this like be the case forever? No. And then I decided, okay, let's start freelancing. But this is the book that made me do it. If you're single, I can still advise the book. I've got a wife, by the way, now. Thank you. Thank you. So in 2011, I started as a freelance Java developer at CGK. And yeah. But in June 2009, I found this book, The 4-Hour Workweek. Who knows it? It's by Timothy Ferriss. Okay, it's probably the guys that put up their hands when they mentioned they wanted to work only 4 hours a week. And it talks about, yeah, perhaps being rich is not about having a lot of money. Perhaps being rich is about choosing the lifestyle that you want. And he also mentions that the value of €1 differs the moment that you spend that €1. Everybody having kids knows that when you go on a vacation during school holidays, you will pay way more for the same vacation than if you do it somewhere in October. He also talks about replacing goal setting with fear setting. And what does he mean with that? Well, we as human beings, we don't like change. We prefer to do the safest thing that we can. And he said, yeah, try to make a list of all the things that can go wrong and go consciously over that list. And what is the worst that can happen? Yes, you can quit your job, but it's not because you quit your job that after that you will never find another job anymore. And his idea is to automate income. And I think, yeah, for him it's easy. He wrote a #1 New York Times bestseller, so he succeeded in that. But I thought, it's a really cool idea, but I don't see it happening for me, to be honest. But for me, the conclusion of that book was, doing the same as everybody else may perhaps be safe, but it's perhaps not the best thing for yourself. So that's the key takeaway that I took from that book. Then we move to December 2015, and I really confess, I went to the dark side. I did .NET development. So what happened? I got involved in a pre-sales project at Segeca, and the goal was to create software to calculate the benefits of construction workers. Well, I only knew Java, but the customer really insisted, well, we really want a .NET implementation. And yeah, knowing only Java, I thought, okay, how hard can it be to do .NET development? And yeah. We went to the customer, and because I was involved in the pre-sales trajectory, suddenly the slide showed up, and they announced, yeah, this is Ronald, this is our senior .NET architect. And of course, it was my fault, because I thought I could have looked at the slides before, but you know how these things go, it's like manually sales that does these slides. But yeah, I really felt uncomfortable. But my .NET journey started, and to be honest, C# or .NET is just like Java, but you have a little bit more of uppercase I's. But one thing I really liked is it got me introduced to Hangfire. And Hangfire is, in fact, a tool to do distributed processing in .NET. And what did we use it for? Well, at the end of each month, we needed to calculate the wages of 1 million workers in construction and see how they, what is the amount of money that I would get at the end of the month. And the fun part is, because it's distributed, we just create the jobs, we scale up the amount of pods, all these jobs are being processed, and at the end, we just scale down again, and it's done. And I loved it so much that I said to all my Java colleagues, hey, this is a tool that one day I will be porting to Java. But yeah, you know how life goes. And then in September 2019, I started a Java project again with a different company though, and it was a fintech project. It was middleware for e-invoicing, Peppol, and they said, yeah, it's a greenfield project, but watch the quotes around the greenfield project. It was already 1 year in development, and the launch had to go in 3 months. So what is Peppol, in fact? It's the Pan-European Public Procurement Online Protocol. And now I know why all these people in Brussels for the European Commission make so much money. It's because they can come up with names that are so difficult and that are just mean e-invoicing or e-procurement. And what is it about? Well, being fintech and banks, of course, it's XML. So what every company as of 2025 will need to do if they invoice another company is they will need to use Peppol, and it means that you send an XML document, and inside that XML document we will be encoding the actual PDF base64. Whether that's a good idea, I don't know. But anyway. When I arrived, it was a microservice party. So a lot of RESTful microservices on Google Cloud. And they offered an asynchronous API. So the first call saved the document and put an event on PubSub for further processing. All other communication was synchronous using RESTful APIs, also the external APIs. And of course, like with any project, the goal was to scale and process millions of documents per day. But yeah, the goal and the actual differed a little bit. But microservices. I'm not a big fan of microservices, to be honest. That's why I really like that the Spring team is pushing the modular monolith. And I don't know who saw the keynote where they announced it. Because here in this case, when I joined, processing was not retried when another service failed. They were not using micrometer metrics, open telemetry, or such things, so we didn't have any monitoring. The logging was done without a correlation ID, and we just lost invoices back then. And I don't know about you, but when I send my invoice at the end of the month, I hope that I get paid someday. So this is the Greenfield project that I envisioned. This is how I felt after a week. So yeah, I considered a career change. But that's not me. And back in the day, yeah, our Google Cloud cost was also quite high because I think we had, for a team of 4 people, they had created like 8 microservices, all redundant. And so they were considering even changing cloud provider. So yeah, all the other solutions were either vendor specific. They required extra infrastructure, like Apache Kafka, Apache Hadoop, and it's gotten a lot better. But back then, in 2019, you didn't simply install Hadoop FS. I remember going to people asking, hey, can we install this? And they looked at me, what is this thing? And from my point of view, there wasn't one open source, one-stop shop that is easy to use, and with that I mean really developer-friendly, distributed by default, that uses your existing infrastructure, like your SQL or NoSQL database, that includes monitoring, and that is resilience built in. So I thought back to, this is perhaps the time for to port Hangfire to Java, and I said, okay, let's do this. It's time to create JobRunr. And it's really simple. I wanted it to be as simple as possible. So you can just use AdiJava 8 Lambda to create a background job. And this part was not that easy because for a Lambda, you cannot know what is happening in the Lambda easily via reflection. So internally, we use some bytecode reading, use ASM to find out what's going on. By the way, bytecode is really not that hard, to be honest. It's distributed and cluster friendly and cloud native also, of course, meaning that if you have a job, what would we do? We analyze the Lambda, we save it as fast as possible to your database, your SQL or NoSQL database, and then different workers can process it. I'll get back to that in a minute. It uses your existing infrastructure. It's embeddable. Just add one jar to your project and you're good to go. It's resilient. It retries automatically in case there is a job failure. And it comes with a dashboard, so you see what's going on. And of course, it integrates with the best, and that's Spring Boot. So how does this look? And I am afraid I don't know whether this is readable in the back, but what you just do, you have a job scheduler. If you want to fire a one-off job, you just do jobscheduler.enqueue, a Lambda. Typically, you can use your Spring Beans, your services, and you call a method on that service with parameters, and we do all of it for you. You can also schedule it at a certain moment or have like cron jobs that run every night or so. And this is the dashboard I was talking about, so you can follow up on your jobs. It has a live update. In case a job fails, you see it streaming to the dashboard. You see the reason of the failure with the stack trace. And how does it work? And this is the most technical slide, I think. The first thing we do is we create a job, save it as soon as possible, and then 1 to n different servers can start processing it. So in February 2020, I said to the company, with the fintech company, bye-bye. And it was like the best moment ever. I can finally do what I want to do. There is no manager saying, today you need to look at this bug. There is no scrum meetings. It's like, you're your own boss. But 2020 was a special year. So 1 month later, we had the COVID lockdown, and I thought, fuck, what did I do? I will never find a job again. Luckily, my wife said, let's continue what you're doing. We'll see how it goes. We planned this anyway, so okay. Before actually quitting my job for the whole bytecode reading, I did a proof of concept already before. I knew it could work, and yeah, we started developing it. And then in April 2020, I published it, the first version to GitHub, and announced it on Reddit. To be honest, that version I'm really not that proud of. The bytecode reading part was really ugly. But Reddit, and it immediately got quite some likes, to be honest. A couple of months, a month later, I put the first version on Maven Central. And in May 2020, I had 19 unique downloads. June, it's already a little bit better, 62 unique downloads, and by July, 110, which is okay, but it's like, okay. And I thought, I knew from Hangfire that he had a pro version, so I thought, okay, I'm also going to create a pro version. I still have some, we have some money saved. I can still do this 1 or 2 months. And the idea would be that if there ever was a customer that took a pro version, I could take my wife out for dinner, for example, have a nice dinner with her. She allowed me to do this anyway. And because I had time, I could play with all the cool things. So we were testing virtual thread back in 2020. But then in September 2020, something happened. I got my first pro customer. It not only made my day, it made my week. It was like, somebody wanted to pay for the thing that I created. And it was a small company from Paris. And I asked, can we get on a call? Because I want to talk. And he said, yeah. And during the call, I even mentioned, I think I would like to kiss you, but yeah, you're in Paris. But anyway, it made me feel really happy. And he paid 500 euro for this. So I could take out my wife for dinner already. And then if you want to start your own business, we'll live in quite a good time, because we have all these great channels to distribute news about it. So I contacted InfoQ, Baldung, Oracle Java Magazine, and Dev.to, and I just mailed them and I said, look, I've created this thing. If I would write a blog post for you, would you be able to publish it? Would you like to publish it? And they all mentioned instantly, yes, go for it. And this is like really fun that the community is so open and that they're all keen to publish articles. But of course, I have 3 kids to feed. And they are hungry, especially the 5-year-old one. He really eats a lot for the moment. And by the way, this is my wedding shirt, and I especially wear it for the photographer, so I have a new LinkedIn picture. Because I really suck at photos, so yeah. But what happened, I just kept on maintaining it during my free time. I added new features to it, typically after hours, during weekend days, holidays. So yeah, and this is my commit history. I don't know if everybody knows how to read this, but the first line is like the Sunday. The last line of small squares is the Saturday. And to give you an idea, this is a public holiday in Belgium, so it was a lot of time during after work hours. So at the end of December 2020, This was the revenue that I made with JobRunr. It's the full 500 euros for, I think, 8 months of work, doing 10 to 11 hours a day, working weekends, but yeah. So we continued. And then in July 2021, something happened. I got my first US customer. And what they do, they program Cisco phones company-wide. But these phones are often not plugged in yet. And what made that they had to have a resilience mechanism. And this is where JobRunr came in, because automatically, so the moment that they put in the phone in the plug, the job would retry every once in a while, and it would update the phones. So really happy about that. I sent them an invoice, $19,950 US, but the guy knew how to negotiate. But then, in euro, this is only 1,470 euro. And this is not because of the difference in the valuta, but this is because the US bank, for an international wire transfer, takes off 5%. Then my bank, international wire transfer, 5%. I think like 200 euros went to the bank, and 200 euros was the currency versus euro versus dollar. But yeah. Then in November 2021, I had kind of a dip. It's like I have a successful open source project. Why are you crying? Well, people are starting to send me stack traces via LinkedIn. And this is not a fun way to debug things. There is no code highlighting, or it's not. So this, I still get messages like these. I am facing this error. Yeah, okay. But okay. And this is something that I want to ask you all to do today. Perhaps all the software that we are using, building, is built on top of open source. Spring is the best example. They do awesome work. We had the log4shell thingy, but these guys were also doing this all in their free time. So if I can ask you one thing at the end of this talk is, please go talk to the maintainers of your open source project. All the speakers here are really awesome people. And start the GitHub repo, say thank you, because this is what makes us all tick. So yeah. There is even a book about it. It's called Roads and Bridges, the unseen labor behind our digital infrastructure, where they research burnout in open source projects, and this is really a big thing. I think the latest thing is the SSH attack that was in the news a couple of months ago, where they, it was state-sponsored, but it's not always a lot of fun, especially if you don't have a viable business model and you keep doing this in your spare time. But then in December 2021, something happened. I have Google Analytics on my website, and suddenly I saw this peak of visitors, and I didn't know what was happening. And then I found out that Josh Long blogged about it in his weekly newsletter. And I just sent him a tweet, hey Josh, thank you for mentioning me. And the next thing I know, he asked me for his podcast. So we had a short podcast on Spring Boot and JobRunr on Beautiful Boot podcast. And after the podcast, he tells me, yeah, we really need to add Spring native support to it. Let's hack together tomorrow, and this is the day before Christmas, by the way. So Josh and I, at 10 o'clock in the evening, we were hacking and adding Spring native support, and it's like awesome. He just proposed it out of himself. I really want to thank him for that. So December 2021, total revenue is about 2,000 euro. And this is all the commits. Back in March and April, it was a really, we had a lot of a busy moment at Bring Me, where I was working freelancing, so I did some overtime there. but still a lot of work during the weekends. But I had fun. And then February 2022, the third pro customer. And this was my pricing page back then. And I'm a developer. I'm not a sales guy. So what did I say? Yeah, if you're a small company, then you pay less. And if you're a big company, you typically earn more, then you need to pay more. But procurement really doesn't like that. They want to have the same price for everybody. So yeah. And this company that contacted me, it was a medical image, they did medical image processing. So what do? They have a lot of images that they get in. They have the knowledge, the know-how on how to do cancer recognition, but they need to distribute all of these jobs, and the processing needs to happen fast, and that's why they found me. And the main reason, because you of course can do this in the cloud, is because their software is not only in their own cloud, but it's also running at hospitals on-prem. And JobRunr is the only solution that can give you one solution to do everything. You're not, it's cloud agnostic. And more stuff happened. A call center contacted me. They made call center software, and yeah. To be honest, if I create recurring jobs, I typically only have 5 to 10 or something. It's already a lot for me. And this guy, again, via LinkedIn, hey, yeah, we're using your open source software, and we have 1,500 recurring jobs. And sometimes they're not running all of them. And I said, yeah, of course not. It was not designed for that. And then I said, okay, let's fix this. And back then I thought, perhaps this is something to only add in the pro version. And another customer contacted me, they do real estate management, and they need to. In fact, for them, I really don't know the exact use case. But this is also a really fun story. An US company again, they do brand protection. So what does that mean? They scan websites all over the world each day, and they do some sentiment analysis on it. Is the company, for example, is Spring.io mentioned positively, then they say, hey, there's an opportunity there. If it's mentioned negatively, then the marketing team, for example, can go and try to help the people who are telling bad things. And so the developers liked it, and what did they do? They added a trial version, so I gave them a trial version for 1 month, and they added it to production. And it worked out, and then they noticed that because of the dashboard, they could give the dashboard to first-line support, and they were interrupted not that often anymore, so they saw a 20% developer productivity increase, because first-line support could search the customer on the dashboard, requeue the job, because it's only recrawling, and all the solutions were already solved. So they went to their manager and they said, yeah, look, you have 2 more weeks to pay this guy, otherwise our production system goes down. It was the easiest deal I've ever done. And then in May 2022, something really awesome happened. I submitted an abstract to Spring.io, and Sergio Almar accepted it. I don't know why, but it was awesome. And the good thing is, it was recorded. And by being recorded and being published on YouTube, a lot of developers afterwards watch it, and it also gives like this Spring approved almost stamp on it. And this is when things started to, I felt that there was happening something, it was getting traction. So, what do? You call all your former colleagues and you ask them, can I make a living of this open source software library that I maintain? And now I want to do a quick poll. Thumbs up, yes. Thumbs down, no. What do you think? Yeah, there are a couple, you know the story, but indeed, this is the result that I got. I even had to add 0.2% yes, just to make it feasible. So they all said, no, this is not going to work. Don't do it, Ronald. You're throwing away your career. So yeah, continued freelancing. But in the meantime, the open source growth continued. So we, in June 2021, we had about 2,000 of unique IPs, which grew to 7,000 at May 2022. And then there was this Belgian company that tries to help companies, and they offered a course. Look, this course is to increase your sales. It was called Increase Your Profits. How do I turn a potential buyer into a returning customer? But the course costed back then somewhere around 2,000 euro, and if you only made like 2,000 euro the last year. But in the end, they convinced me, and I'm really happy about that, because they had an onboarding. It was personalized, so we had an onboarding talk, and back then I was talking to a Fortune top 5 company. The deal didn't get through for a reason, but and they said like, hey, you don't have a talk to sales option? Are you crazy? So 1 month later, I changed my pricing page, and after the enterprise version, I also added the platinum version. And you still paid for, depending on the company size, but if you wanted to use JobRunner in multiple projects instead of one project, I think it also adds more value. So for me, it kind of makes sense. Yeah, then you pay a little bit more. So where in the past it was 5,000 5,000 euro company-wide, it was now 5,000 euro per project. And then in August 2022, the talk to sales button was clicked. A company called me, and I remember I was camping, and because I now maintained this, I had customers. My laptop has to go everywhere with me, and I was sitting at the tent doing a call with the customer, and I didn't even know that this software exists. They do disaster management software. So in case that there is like a flooding, a lot of things need to happen, and they have software to manage that. And they said, yeah, we like it, we buy it. And the deal in the end went through for $17,000 US. So, okay, I said, there is something here. I decided, okay, now it's time to go full in on JobRunner, and I subscribed to a startup incubator, sorry, and they accepted me. And this is all of us in Antwerp, Belgium, where we joined, and we had a great start weekend. But something more amazing happened. We were featured in the technology ThoughtWorks radar, and I don't know how that happened, but apparently they liked it, and they mentioned our teams have enjoyed using JobRunner's built-in dashboards, which is easy to use. And what I even liked even more is that Sergi Almar, again, and the community started retweeting all of this news. So we again got quite some exposure. So, December 2022, this was the revenue that I had. I made about 88,000 euro. And these are my commits. This is the commit history again. So I'm definitely not near the 4-hour work week, to be honest. Then we go to 2023, and this was really not that good of a moment. At the startup incubator, they really mentioned, yeah, you need to search for a co-founder. You're really technical. Please find yourselves a sales guy so you can take this to the next level. And I joined the Find Your Co-founder event. And I met there someone we hit off initially. And luckily we made good agreements, so we decided to have an honeymoon period. Because for me, doing this, onboarding somebody on the thing that you started, it's almost like a marriage. So I wanted to be sure. And we decided that if everything was well after 3 months, we started a new company, because I was still doing this on my own company, and he would also get equity. But things didn't work out that well. And this was one of the toughest decisions and discussions I've ever done, because I remember he was from the Netherlands, going to the Netherlands and saying like, look, I don't want to do this anymore, I don't feel it. But he was really unhappy about it, and different opinions. But the total cost for me was 15,000 euro to say, come, let's get it over with. The added value was 0. So this was not so much fun. But even more troubles. We released in January 2023 JobRunr v6. And although it added quite a lot of new features, it contained a certain bug. And this bug, because we have quite some test coverage, we have over 5,000 integrations and unit tests, but this bug only showed up on certain CPUs, certain OSs, and when you have a lot of load. So in April 2023, the first GitHub issue came in. Hey, you promised me that you run my jobs, but no jobs are being run. Quite a big issue. And I thought, this is strange. No, this is like 2 months after the release, but yeah. I tried to find what's going on, but didn't find it initially. But then I found this great workshop from Mario Fusco about using async profiler. And I used it on JobRunr, and suddenly I saw something. On a technical side, so what were we doing? We were querying the amount of CPU that is used by the server way too much. And if you do that way too much, apparently a deadlock happens, and this was the reason. So in May 2023, we found a reason. We released JobRunr v6.2, and the fix was in it, and nobody can read it on the screen, but it mentions important bug fix for people running JobRunr on Windows, and then I scratched Windows because something happened. And this is the first time that I panicked. On a Friday evening, because 3 kids, we are lying in bed at 7 o'clock on a Friday evening, because kids, we don't get any sleep almost. And the customer using medical imaging, they reached out again via LinkedIn, and they say, hey, we have a bit of an emergency. People are not getting their cancer results. And then I asked, hey, are you on Windows? No. Which version are you using? Yeah, 6.1. Okay, can you please try upgrading to 6.2 and come back? And luckily that solved the problem. So it was not only on Windows, but it was also on Red Hat, I think. But this is like the first time, shit, this is growing above my head. Then January, March 2023, I also was looking pricing and more. So it's really difficult. My pricing page back then was, I simplified it, because before I maintained multiple versions, but I was still doing this mostly alone. We had a pull request from the community, but maintaining several versions of your software, it's hard. So I decided to only have one version. The enterprise version now adds an additional jar you add, and it simplified things a lot, and I removed the smaller pricing. So now you have 5,000 euro per production cluster, or the enterprise version. And I've been into calls with customers and developers. They say $5,000 for 5,000 euro for a beep jar. That's like a whole lot of money. Yet I have this small anecdote to tell. Some of the European railway railway company is a customer of mine, and we were in a call together with procurement, so the developers, me, and procurement. And 2 minutes into the call, I saw the face of the procurement guy getting angrier to 1 minute. By the minute, you saw he was thinking, what the hell am I doing here? Why are we discussing about 5,000 or 20,000 euro? And so 6 minutes into the call, he just said, Just tell me how many of these enterprise licenses we need. Doot, doot, doot. So yeah, okay, small poll again. Who think 20,000 euro for JobRunr is expensive? You can put your hands in the air. I think it's also expensive. I really think it's expensive. So I thought, okay, but there is this buy versus build calculator. That's online. It's not something that I developed myself to prove my point, but I just filled in some numbers. Employees required, 1. Time to build. I spent about, if I count all my hours, 2 years on it. I was low on the cost side, gross salary 7,000 euro, blah, blah, blah. If you would have to build this yourself, it would cost you 210,000 euros. On top of that, the years to profit is 20 years. Not only that, the time to market that you then have if you develop this yourself is a lot. You lose time, which is like the most important thing. So I still, if people are happy to pay it, I'm okay with it. But then this is a Fortune Top 100 company, and they were like, they have money enough, they're more than 30 people, and they said, yeah, we want to have a business license, which was 5,000 euro in then, so I sent them a sales quote. And then the procurement lady got back to me and she said, yeah, 5,000 euro, and I started adding extra support because the moment that you have customers and I really try to keep all my customers happy, they also start to send you Java questions unrelated to your product. So I was becoming their nearshore development partner. So at that moment, I decided, okay, this has to stop. We are adding support hours, and so I recommended them, please take also 4 support hours. That way, if something happens, okay. She came back to me. Yeah, if you give us 20% discount, you do the support for free, and you accept our terms and conditions, then it's okay for us. And I said, no, not. She tried 4 times again, and I'm a developer, I'm not a sales guy. This shit, it makes me angry. So I started asking ChatGPT, give me a funny response, but in the end, a colleague of mine at a startup said, please try this email. And I said, hey, I really tried, but my CEO doesn't allow to give me more than 50% discount. And again, only if you accept my terms and conditions. If you want, you can try to convince him yourself. Here is his email address, and I put my email address again. 2 days later, she said, it's okay. So there's that. Not only that, I had to go through a lot of legal stuff, which I really don't like to do. I learned a lot about it. It's not my preferred subject. But does anybody know the book Rework? I can highly recommend the book. It's about David Heinemeier Hansen, I think he's called. He created Ruby on Rails. He has a lot of companies started. And he mentions like, try to do all the stuff as long as possible yourself, so that way you know what you're paying somebody if they start to take over that work. And so that's why I still, up until now, read most of the legal documents myself. And a big European retailer contacted me. They sell sports goods all over the world. And they said, hey, we want a license of JobRunr, an enterprise license. And an enterprise license, then I say, okay, you don't have to accept my terms and agreements. I will read through yours, and we can try to find something that's matches the both of us. And I sent my sales quote. I attached first my terms and agreements, which are really standard. Not, and then they get back, yeah, it's okay, it's good. Please sign this contract, and it's done. And then I started reading, and it says, per euro that we lose because of JobRunr, we will get that euro back from you. So the JobRunr is used over there to make sure that the goods are always present. So if somebody sells it, one goes away, and yeah, you need to add one, and to calculate like the difference, That's where JobRunr is used. So I didn't feel like if I had that bug, I talked about this with my wife. Guess her answer? No. Mine also. So I said, sorry, I cannot accept it. But in the end, the IT manager there said, okay, we take the risk on us. And so they became a customer, and they're a happy customer. But then it starts to think about insurance and stuff like that. So now I also, within this, for all the money that they pay, I now also have insurance up until 2 million euro. But this is also quite expensive, so that's also part in the price that customer pays. Then July until September 2023, what's happening for the moment? Well, I don't know whether you've heard, but there's this AI craze going on, so I think we should do something about it. So we're now collaborating with the University of Leuven to add machine learning to JobRunr, because you have some jobs that are really CPU intensive, you have jobs that are IO intensive, so the amount of work that you can parallelize will depend on the type of job that you're doing. And we have had 2 interns working with us, and they delivered an excellent work, and we're now looking into integrating that. So depending on the amount of the type of job that you're running, we will automatically determine the amount of threads, so to get optimal throughput. But something else happened. I hired my first employee, Ismaila, a great developer. He does front and back end, and he also has a lot of knowledge about machine learning. So, the number everybody is waiting for. The revenue of 2023 was about 280,000 euro. The amount of commits, well, I'm not at the 4-hour work week yet, but it's still weekend work, but there's a different reason for that. I will get back to that. So, what else did we do this year then? We added a license, because these enterprise customers, they're all nice and they pay and they all love the product. We have a churn rate of 0.5 or something, I think, %. But we were just begging, because we have a jar, we have not a SaaS. We were begging for our money to get paid, and I was so fed up with that we decided to add a license, and that's valid for 1 year, or if they want it, for multiple years. But at least now, and this really helps, in the dashboard suddenly it pops up, hey, this is only going to work for another 2 months anymore. Then suddenly they start calling you. Donata, who is sitting right here, is currently an intern. She's doing marketing, and I want her to get into the heads of developers as soon as possible. And she will also start as an account manager, because all the stuff that I don't like to do, mailing all the customers, she really likes to do it, and she's really good at it, following up, making sure that we get paid. We have 43 outstanding feature requests, 1 small bug. And something that's really close to my heart, we're working on carbon-aware scheduling, meaning that in the European Union, we know, depending on the amount of electricity, whether there is more electricity from renewables like solar, or there is a lot of dirty electricity from coal. So typically, if you have certain jobs, you want them to be finished, for example, before 7 AM in the morning when your shop opens, but you don't care exactly when that it runs. Well, we're currently adding, using the energy forecasting, carbon-aware scheduling, that JobRunr automatically determines the best moment to run the job for you with only a small change in the API. So you say, hey, I want to run this cron job every night at 2 o'clock, for example, but you say it can also start 2 hours earlier and it can start 2 hours later. So we try to be still really user-friendly about this API. And this is also being contributed by a Belgian company called Mindwave, and we're collaborating together on this. And we have been doing an external performance review with Heinz Kabutz, a Java champion. So, the conclusion. The 4-hour work week is possible, but I'll be honest, I really enjoy working on this. I'm now a CEO, and CEO means in this case Chief Everything Officer, whether I like it or not. It's been a blast, to be honest. I never expected this. And open source can also be a marketing bliss, because nobody would have trusted to give me any money just by using, if we wouldn't have had the open source version. And I want to do a big thank you to a lot of people. Sergey, the guy from Hangfire. My time is almost up, so. Adam Bean, Michael Pierretlich, Alan Zagic, and Maciej Wolkovic from the Twitter guy, who every time he tweets about JobRunner, our stars go crazy. The beautiful Spring team, especially Josh Long and Sergi Almar. All the abstract reviewers like Tom Coles. All the great contributors. All my awesome customers. Started KBC, which is the incubator, and I was lucky that in Flanders we pay a lot of taxes, but they use it to help startups, so they gave us a travel budget to come here to Spring.io. And especially all of you guys using JobRunner and coming to at the conference, somebody always comes up and says, hey, we really love it, we like it. This is the things that make us tick. So a big thank you to you guys all. And that's it. Please rate the talk, good or bad. And if you're happy with JobRunner, start the repo. Thank you.